I was happy that we got through the Jacksonville State game without any serious injuries. I thought we got off to a slow start, especially offensively, and then I think we scored 5 straight touchdowns once we got the defense turned the ball over some and gave the offense a short field. I thought that overall defensively we played much better in the Jacksonville State game than Tennessee, and it was good to see that improvement. And to get out of that game on short rest was a positive. Disappointed that we didn't get to play the Central Florida game, although I understand the circumstances and everything there, but we would have loved to have played the game. So we took that time, had a couple of practices, some fundamental stuff, a little bit about Pitt, got a jump start, introduction, and then that leads us into this week, which is good to be back on a normal week. This has been kind of a weird season to begin with, but it's nice to be back in a routine and open up the ACC schedule at home. Division game, and it's a big game for us. That's one of our goals every year, is to try to win the Coastal Division and get into the ACC championship game, and it starts Saturday.
All right. Questions for Coach Johnson? If you could wait for a microphone. So.
When you look at Pitt offensively and defensively, who stands out to you individually as well as what they do on offense and defense? What stands out to you?
Well, start offensively, I think that they have good skill players. The Henderson kid is dynamic. They try to get him the ball in a lot of ways. They have a stable of good running backs. It's a little uncertain with their quarterback right now, whether it'll be Brown or DiNucci, but we kind of get ready for their system. One's a little more quarterback run game than the other one, but that's the stuff you see every week. So you have to have a plan for that as you go in. I would guess that he's going to be the guy who starts, but it would depend. I mean, they both may play. Defensively, they're replacing a lot of guys. They probably get back what I would consider their best player this week in Whitehead, the safety. He was serving a 3-game suspension, and he comes back. And they're a very aggressive defense. They stunt and blitz a lot, and they've played against 2 pretty good offenses, one that ran the ball on them fairly well in Penn State and the other one that threw the ball. So they've had to face 2 top 10 teams in back-to-back weeks, and when you play defense that way against really talented teams, sometimes you struggle. They hit big plays on you, and that's kind of what's happened to them.
This probably could go either way, but going into conference play, is it more of an advantage to have the extra practice time going into the first opponent, or more of a disadvantage to not have the extra game?
I don't know. I think it's hard to tell. From a purely rest standpoint, you're going to be more rested because that would have been 3 games in 13 days that had we played it. But when you've got a lot of young guys who haven't played, you lose those game reps that you can't really get in practice. You try, but it's not the same. That's one part. The other part is when you don't play a game, as I said last week, in my mind, that's akin to losing, because you're trying to get a certain number of wins, and if you don't get to play, it might as well count as a loss because you can't win the game. So that's why we were disappointed we didn't get to play, and our guys in general spend a lot of time. Everybody does. Conditioning, lifting, preparing to play games, and then when you don't get to play one, that's the negative. And for us, we'd put in a good amount of time game planning because we didn't find out we weren't going to play until 2:15 on Monday, and coming off our game on Saturday, we'd spend the next 2 days getting ready to play the game. So all that was just trash canned. You throw all that work away.
And then kind of as a quick follow-up, do you, maybe more than any other season, well, you did open to Boston College one year, but going into conference play, do you maybe have less a feel for this team than you normally would have or would want to have? Talking about your team.
Yeah, I think that we're still trying to gauge and prod and figure out who we are in some areas. There's no question about that when you've only played 2 games. But you know, at times we've opened up the season with conference games, so it's who knows. I mean, I think that we'll find out a lot more on Saturday.
Paul, do you anticipate the return of Whitehead changing anything they do significantly on defense? And
No.
do you anticipate them stunting less because of the nature of your offense?
No, I mean they're gonna be aggressive. They stunt, blitz. They're a big zone pressure team now. It might not show up because we're not throwing it 40 times and it doesn't look like a blitz, but they're running stunts and 2-3 exchanges, and you know, they're doing a lot of moving, a lot of stunting, a lot of blitzing.
You've played some of the younger guys like Howard, Owens, Henderson, Jordan Swilling. Have they continued to progress in practice where they'll continue to get more reps?
Well, all those guys are probably in the 2 deep or right on the fringe of it, so they're all going to play at times during the year. It's just situation warranted, and how much they get better in practice and gain experience, and truthfully how people stay healthy, and there's all kinds of things that go into that.
Coach, your team went from playing 2 games in 5 days to now not playing 1 in 16 days. Are you looking forward to kind of getting back to the rhythm of 7 days between games?
I am, and I think our team is. Really looking forward to it. And right now we're only, unless something changes, it's going to be for 2 weeks, and then we're right back at it again. So, you know, but it's nice to kind of get into that routine, and it's good for the players to have a routine. I think everybody does better when you're in that kind of mode.
The lobby got finished a little bit ago, but I'm curious if you could talk just a little bit about kind of what you wanted out of it and what you're hoping gets.
Well, I think, like we said before, anytime with facilities, if you're not doing anything, you're falling further and further behind, and that place hadn't been touched in a long time. And you know, when we agreed to let the Atlanta United use our stadium, there was a certain sum of money that they put in there that was going to go to the football program for whatever we wanted to use it for, and that's what we chose to use it for recruiting, to, you know, help modernize the entrance and spruce up, and got an NFL board upstairs with all the current, well, not all the current players, but several of them, a board up there with all the guys here who have signed with NFL teams, and, you know, even the ones who just maybe had a cup of coffee with them, but they were on there, and it's broken down by each team. And so all that stuff, it helps in recruiting and it helps with the facilities. So that was a positive that our administration allowed us to do that.
Because the last 2 games that you played against them have been high scoring, and I think they've gone down to about 3 points. Do you anticipate a same type of game this week?
You don't know. I hope not. I hope one team's high scoring. If it is, I hope it's us. But yeah, you know, they came down to last possessions, both games. 2 years ago here, the kid kicked a 56-yard field goal in the last play. And up there a year ago, we failed to make a 4th and less than 1, and that was as much our fault as theirs with what we did and the way we lined up. And then they kicked so it's been those kind of games. Could be. I mean, I got a lot of respect for Pat and their staff. They do a good job, and their kids play hard. And who knows? We've just got to cut out the mental mistakes and the errors, and when we've got a chance to hit big plays, we need to hit them. And you know, the same thing up there a year ago. We take a bad angle and tip the ball. It goes into their hands, and they score. If we don't even tip it, the guy don't catch it on 3rd and whatever, and probably the game's over. Same thing. We get the ball back, and, you know, we run the route a little short and come up half a yard short on 3rd down, and then on 4th down we close our splits down and don't make it. You know. So a lot of that's self-inflicted. You have to give them credit for making plays, but also we contributed to it, you know.
Can you talk a little bit about kind of where Ricky where you see Ricky fitting in compared to some of the other guys you've put in the NFL as a receiver? Do you see
As
him
compared to,
like Darren or DeAndre or Bebe or whatever?
well, I think
Where does he
there's,
fit in
you know, Demaryius Thomas was different. He's kind of a freak. You know, Ricky would be closer probably to maybe DeAndre. You know, Darren was a big, tall receiver. Stephen Hill was a tall receiver. You know, Kevin Cone played, what, 5 years in the NFL? So Ricky's probably somewhere in between Kevin and DeAndre if I was going to compare them. But he's worked really hard to change his body. You know, hard worker. Hey, he hadn't missed a practice. He didn't miss one day in camp. He's willing to do the dirty work. He'll do whatever you ask. It's like I told somebody in that Tennessee game, nobody realized it, but on the 2-point play, he had that corner so pinned. I mean, he had him down in there. If we kicked the ball, that would have been a walk-in, you know. And just things like that he does that nobody sees sometimes. And he's developed into a leader, I think, by example. He's not a talker. He's a quiet kid. Doesn't have much to say.